Did you know
Sodomy
about
laws.
this? Did you know about this, Walrus?
I know about sort of the. I've heard about it in school. I remember.
Yeah.
Um, but please, you can probably dive
But like,
deeper.
I mean, in the book that I showed in one of the overview slides, like the Normlöst book, and when you talk to people about, the story of gays in Norway, they talk about gay marriage. That's what people know about. In 2008, gay marriage became legal, and that's like the turning point. Before that, it was just okay. Like it was really, it was just so conservative or whatever. But then gay marriage was legalized because of Obama or something. So then we really changed society.
I
It was
hate
just
that you're
really good.
right.
And
That would
but
probably
like,
be my answer 10 years ago.
yes, but like this is actually the turning point. And the agenda. I mean, you look at the organization, like the Association of 1948. When because of this law, the organization is basically illegal, right? So what they're doing is promoting sodomy as defined by this law, and so they're promoting sodomy. They're a secret organization, and they basically plan to change the law in a
It
way that
was
benefits them. So this is a
it
conspiracy,
was
right?
named. It was in the section of crimes against morality, if
Yeah,
I remember
it
correctly,
was.
which is certainly a title.
I mean, could you maybe just click the link so we can see we can
Well, the
look at
link
the
you
full
you
paragraph?
you
Yeah,
gave me is it's invalid, but I can
it is
probably
invalid.
find
Well,
the
you
original
think you could just?
text.
I think you just type the text in Google. I think you'll find like
Yeah,
the
I'm
first
trying to
results.
find.
So.
I'm not sure if I can find it in any sort of like legal because it's no longer there, right? I
No,
can
but
find it in
they
like
have the
a Wikipedia
historical
thing.
record of what it was. So now they just use that as
I
like,
think
oh,
they don't want to show it, so I'm gonna have to find it in like an old
interesting. I need to check why that link
Wikipedia
isn't
thing.
working. Let's see. Oh well, it doesn't work. Let's see.
I found a Wikipedia thing that mentions it.
Well, the Wikipedia. This one is yeah, that's where it is. So let's see if you can zoom in a little bit. We can read.
This
Let's
is the
see.
Google Translate version
Yeah.
of a very legal Danish text. But it says if lewd intercourse takes place between persons of the male sex, those who are guilty of it or who participate in it are punished with imprisonment for up to 1 year. With the same punishment is considered the one who has lewd association with animals or who participates in it. Påtale, that is incrimination, or
Yeah.
is it only takes place when it requires for general reasons? So let me see what the original text here is.
It's a
Uh,
charge, basically, a criminal
yeah,
charge. That's what it
it's a
means.
criminal charge. That's basically the.
Yeah. So this is a law that was, I mean, it was almost never applied. It was almost never used. Just to give a perspective on, what was the past like, because you get told this story about like these people with this awful, like dark past where everybody's just homophobic, everybody's terrible. They had this one law that was, it comes from a Christian perspective. Like this is sodomy, and so what you'll notice here is that it's only between men. So a man shall not lie with another man. That's where it is from. So lesbianism has always been legal, and the punishment was basically okay. It's up to 1 year. It's not that long, and it was hardly ever enforced. This is the
It
interesting thing.
actually, we talked about it a bit before stream, and we talked about it on the Rank Pundity stream, which was also about all of this stuff. That there's a need to have societal blockers against the
Yes,
gay, quote
but
unquote, and then you can sort of let the couple slip through the cracks of those who are the masculine homosexuals,
well,
so to speak.
yeah, but you see, like with this stuff, it was barely ever used, but it is this thing academic agent says, and I keep repeating it. Society is downstream from law, so
Yes,
just
you have to
because it was
define the
almost
culture through the
never
law. Yeah.
used, it was still incredibly like it had a lot of effect to the point where like people didn't want to like if you say you were an open homosexual, people didn't want to hire you at a job because I mean, it's very unlikely that you're going to be penalized for it, but they sort of knew the law and they knew that this was against the law. So they felt like they would be in a gray area here, even though it's not enforced. So it's still like this very guiding principle. As far as the animal welfare stuff, like they say, they say it underneath there is that, zoophilia, or like, intercourse with animals is still illegal, but it's considered as a form of animal abuse. So they've also, by repealing this stuff, they've also made it easier for that sort of like zoophilia, the dog fuckers, to come in later. And we'll talk about that later in the stream, but I'm just just mentioning it. As you see underneath there was a proposal to repeal it in the 1950s, and they, there's a lot of stuff they thought, well, we barely use this stuff, and it's not just, and so on. If you go back to the
Yeah,
presentation,
I wonder why this fence is here.
yeah.
We should probably tear it down.
Wonder what? Yeah, but I'll give a little bit more of an explanation of. I mean, first of all, the first point on the agenda, like with the Association of 1948 with Kim Friele at the head, was basically, we get rid of this law. And already there you can sort of see that
Did
Kim
you want to go
Friele
back
has a
to
lot of
the presentation?
Yes.
No, sorry.
That
There we go.
she sort of knew that society is like, culture is downstream from law, society is downstream from law. She said that if we can't get rid of that law, it doesn't matter how much advocacy work we do. Like it sort of doesn't matter. We have to then get rid of this. And that's going to be that was like the first major thing. And like, this was the turning point in the, in my view, in like the Norwegian gay history, that they were able to get rid of this stuff. It's not the gay marriage. The gay marriage is a victory lap for them. This is like the actual, after they'd knocked this down, they could just keep knocking down more stuff. So then the question is now, like, how did they manage to do it? Because it was they tried to do it in the 50s, and then they made an attempt in the 70s. And I mean, the change from in the culture from like when this law had been put in there to when they were able to repeal it is that it had become medicalized. Homosexuality, I mean.
I said it was like a medical.
Yes, it's become a medical diagnosis. So in the beginning,
yeah.
this is basically, from the Christian perspective, it's a sin, right? It's just it's a moral failing.
So the way they do it is they move it from the morality to sort of, we can fix this.
Yeah, to the point where it's like they just treat it like, it's from this psychological Freudian lens that it's like this kind of thing that's a medical disease. And the argument then was that, well, we're not going to penalize people for being sick. We can't penalize people for basically having an illness.
That's been done with other things. I'm sure of it. I remember
Yes.
something else. Like I'm sure someone in the chat can mention something, but yeah,
that's
not a new tactic.
That was the tactic. And like, you'll see interviews with Kim Friele, like one of these videos they put out, that's the anniversary of the repealing of the paragraph 213, excuse me, where she actually talks about her strategy for this is that she needed to convince the skeptics, because there were a lot of people that were just hardline against repealing it. So she was not interested in trying to preach to the choir. She wanted to. It's almost like Edward Bernays. It's that, she doesn't care what they believed in. She had to change their mind in order to get a majority to vote for repealing it. And she took the medicalization angle to basically say that this is the science. This is what the science says. Homosexuality is a disease, and we can't penalize people for being sick. And it was also the trivialization angle, is that, well, we barely don't use it anyway, so we can just get rid of it. And this won over a majority of people, of like good faith conservatives, who accepted the framing that, well, yeah, it is a sickness, so we have to then treat the sickness. And that is kind of I would say that's like the boomer truth, like I've written there. That is kind of the psyop. And interestingly enough, if you watch, we talked about Harald Eia and the Brainwash documentary, and like the angle that he takes, like that is actually this angle. Like,
yeah, it's the same angle.
If you're on the right wing of the spectrum, that's what they want you to think. They want you to think that like this is a medical thing, that they're just
they want you
like
to
that.
have
And
transsexuality is a medical condition, and
yes,
the cure is to
Well, there's no cure, right? It's just
Well, you
okay.
have to, take your
Yeah.
hormone blockers and do a life-changing surgery, to put it in a way that won't get me
but
demonetized.
but they are these victims of it, and with them, like, I mean, Kim never believed it. Like, these people never believed that stuff, but they knew they could use it, so they would bring in these reports, like stuff from the Netherlands. Like, they were sort of the progressive pioneers in this field of like research, quote unquote, on this on the gay issue, where there's like, yo, we have all of these, psychologists who are giving who've written all these papers about how this like a medical condition. The thing is that, like, the medical angle is very easy to knock down because it was standing on such a shaky ground to begin with. I mean, when I say medicalized, it was really treated as a medical condition back then, to the point where it's like you wouldn't be, they wouldn't allow you into certain countries. Let's say I would try to move from Norway to the United States, and I was openly gay. They wouldn't let me in there because if they thought it was a disease and that I would infect other people. So it's like Family Guy, it's like, yo, you got the gay. We have to, we got a gay. And they like, that was the mainstream narrative, and it's very easy to knock that down because it is just bullshit ultimately. So
I
they
see. That is incredibly smart, actually, because you move it from a moral failing to, controlling your enemy into taking this opposition, which is essentially is a straw man,
yep.
and then it's super easy to knock over. Yeah.
And then you can just knock that over.